Breakfast Central, this midweek edition. It's Wednesday already, and so many things are happening in our dear country, Nigeria. This is Breakfast Central. We bring you the latest news. We bring you insightful discussions and everything in between. I am Benga Aborowa.
And I am Olive Emodi. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. I thought I'll be starting the show with good news, telling you of how Nigeria has done absolutely well at the games yesterday. Unfortunately, there's a draw, and this has set us back in our journey to the World Cup. Nwebonyi was being trolled, you know, on Twitter. I did see a number of people talking about how he couldn't really hold. Considering
the goal in the 98 minutes, is one of the most painful things that could happen to you.
It was painful, especially because they had a good start. The first 10 minutes was so good, you know. It just felt like at the end of the day, another thing that he was criticized was his demeanor, the way he's always smiling, or the way they say he's very cocky and feels too confident on the pitch, especially when they've scored a goal. So, or when he's been able to, he's not conceded any goals yet, and the Super Eagles have scored a goal. Nigeria was very, very excited about the game, pre the game, but post the game, unfortunately, they beat us in our own home in Uyo. There are other people who have also gone to troll Peter Oby, because Peter Oby was there, and they said, why is it that when you are coming for the game is when this is happening? Please, people should leave Peter Oby. He's there to support Nigeria.
Mathematically, we could still qualify, and the South Africans have an infringement. They fielded an ineligible player that was going to be on suspension. So we're waiting for CAF to take punitive measures, hopefully point deductions, and see what happens. But the head of CAF is South African, so...
You see it's going to be a tough call. Exactly. We really should have won yesterday's game. But no use crying over spilled milk. Let's bring you up to speed with conversations that have happened in the past 24 hours. Now, 24 hours is too long. Yesterday, the Senate Ethics and Privileges Committee, they sat to oversee the matter concerning and the allegations leveled by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan against Senator Akpabio. Now, we then got into a fighting match. I wouldn't call it a fighting match, an exchange was a verbal exchange. We saw here where Senator Nwebonyi, Senator Nwebonyi, the senatorial district representative of Ebonyi North, he was hurling insults at Oby Ezekwesili. Now, what you would see there is the conversation, how it went, which we'll play to you shortly, what caused it, what led to it, who triggered who, and was the reaction commensurate to the triggering word? You be the judge. Let's take a look. Video to watch, very difficult video to watch indeed, very embarrassing. The senators are referred to as distinguished senators, and the manner in which that conversation was carried was not in any way distinguished. Now, what led to this is another conversation to look at. They both have granted interviews, and much later will be joined by Oby Ezekwesili herself to share with us, you know, her side of the story and, you know, what the implications of this might be and what Nigerians should look forward to going forward from here. But the whole of the crux of the matter was because they did raise objections. She was on the side of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, serving as a witness, and they raised objections as to the fact that they think that the Senate and the Ethics Hearing Committee was biased, basically because of the statement made by the chairman. Remember at the time when he said that her application was dead on arrival, so they said they were biased. And there are some other conversations that were brought up, although the defendants, in this case, the Ethics Committee, then said that the matter was sub judice because there's already a case in court. And then the question is, if it's sub judice, what then was the point of bringing these people together to, quote unquote, give chance for fair hearing?
I mean, what we witnessed yesterday is very sad. Like you said, they're called distinguished senators, honorables, and society looks up to them. And to see one of the members, one of the 109 members of the Senate acting that way leaves a lot to be desired.
I mean, very strong words.
Even if you're provoked, there's a certain level of courage and demeanor that is expected of you. And then looking at the person is insulting. This is someone that has achieved a lot in Nigeria, and personally for herself, for him to go that low and use gutter language. You shouldn't even talk to your subordinate in the office like that, let alone on national television.
You know what is baffling? It's the fact that, you know, when you're aware, it's one thing if you're not aware that the media, the media is seeing you. If you are aware that there are newsmen and that the media, Nigerians are watching this, and you're still confident enough to be able to say the kind of things that you said, the words that you used, knowing that the media was there, I shudder to think about what can or could have been said if there were no cameras. You know, being able to use such strong words.
What he'll tell his staff.
You know, he was saying things about very derogatory statements, really, saying, you know, this is why I cannot submit to a man. Like, so many inappropriate conversations there. She's not your wife. She's not there to submit to you. It was really uncalled for. Again, mirrors the conversations women in politics would always bring up, and the background and the biases that women in politics have to face when they speak up for themselves. Anyway, we certainly have a poll that we're going to be putting up on our screen. I would like you to be a part of this poll, to share your thoughts. I will have our production team now share the poll on the screen. So please go on our Twitter, our X handle, and vote. Was Senator Nwebonyi's verbal abuse of former Minister Ezekwesili justified? And of course, the background would be because they said she triggered him by telling him to shut up. So your answer is yes, no, indifferent. So far, we have 14.8% who say yes, it was justified. 4.2% say they're indifferent, and 81% so far say no, it wasn't justified. We'll be taking more reports from this before we wrap up the conversation today. But head to our X account at News Central TV to lend you or to put your own vote as well, to let us know what side of the divide you're on. But now let's move on to other stories.
Now, in our second wake-up conversation this morning, former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, in an interview, did criticize the current Senate President, Mr. Godswill Akpabio, saying he was corrupt and he has a culture of disrespecting women. Let's take a listen.
And he was corrupt. Not only he was corrupt, but he was also in the habit of abusing, women. I was not surprised because I know the leadership is corrupt. I have no apologies about that. And they could do anything. And the Senate President is known actually to be having those type of character.
And that there is an excerpt from an interview in the show Untold Stories with Adesuwa. The full interview will be dropping out. We definitely will look forward to seeing that. But then he's granted this interview, said that Akpabio is known for abusing women. The question now is, what next? What will be done to him? Will the same treatment that has been meted to Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the same resistance that she's gotten from Senate, will she get that same resistance?
Will
he get that same resistance?
Aides come out and say, he's fond of wearing agbada and this and that, the sort of statements we heard. And one thing I noticed from that, from the excerpts, is he never used the word alleged. He was very forthright and confident in the things he was saying. So is he very sure? Does he have evidence?
Will Senator Godswill
Akpabio's suit from
Senator Godswill Akpabio's wife.
Will exactly, like you said, will Senator Godswill Akpabio's wife respond to this? Because these are very weighty allegations against the number 3 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the person of Senator Godswill Akpabio. Or would they just overlook it because, it's big man to big man?
You know what they might end up, we don't know how it's going to turn out. They might just make it look like, it's political maneuvering, it's political tactics, everybody goes. So at the end of the day, they might not make an issue about
other mortals cannot use that statement.
No, how dare you?
Without allegedly.
How dare you say such statements? But we look forward to seeing the full interview and then see what the next steps from Senator Akpabio and his team and the Senate, what they'll make of it. And we do hope, in this case, the conversation again will be, does he have strong proof? Just like they've been saying about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, does she have proof? These are the kind of conversations. Will he get the pushback that she's gotten as well? And I'm still speaking about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Her journey has not been one without a lot of difficulty, a lot of challenges, right from when she was running for the current position as a senator representing her state. And we saw the challenges she had to go through, the roads being broken leading up to her polling unit. At the end of the day, she won with 54,074 votes.
And then when she came to the Senate itself, still battled powers and principalities. And the battle is not over. But the latest, Olive, is that INEC said that the method of gathering signatures for recall was faulty. So it seems she's won this battle. You don't think it's over?
Well, we don't know if it's over. As they said, it's not, they don't have information. If this constituents, this over 200,000 constituents who are not available to vote at the elections, but were available to vote for her recall, will then maybe come together again and put together the details, and INEC can clearly verify the numbers and the details. I mean, if they really believe so strongly, you could see their leader, Honorable Charity, speaking so passionately about why Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has not represented them, and how she's been careless
and
to ensure that the game
is the game.
That's actually how I plan to wrap it up. How she's ensured that the team, the state is not adequately represented because of her ego and how her emotions, she allowed logic trump emotions. Those were very strong statements coming from a very powerful person. So maybe, just maybe, they will have that same energy to go through this again in another 1 week, gather the whole over 200,000 votes and get them to put their addresses and their phone numbers. And then INEC will do an independent verification where representatives from Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's team and representatives from the opposition will all be there with the media as they are verifying every single vote. But until then, the game is the game.
The game is the game. You know, I saw something on social media. There's always a trust deficit between government institutions and the citizens. And people were quite surprised that INEC was forthright in this and staying on the straight and narrow path, saying, this exercise was fraudulent, it can't go on, blah, blah, blah. And people were surprised that, wow, so something good can come out of INEC. Can anything good come out of Bethlehem?
Well, Jesus did. But we see what the true position is, and INEC has been in the spotlight. It feels like the responsibility has been shifting from organization or institution to institution. When from the Senate, they expected from the floor of the House the responsibility to maybe uphold what some might see as justice, then shifted to the Ethics Committee. Right now, INEC has a huge role to play in this, but we're just going to continue to see how this plays out. But remember that your voice also counts in conversations like this, which is why we engage with you at News Central TV. And when we open the phone lines, we give you a chance to call in and share your thoughts on any of the stories we're looking at. Let's share with you our top stories this morning on Breakfast Central. Ezekwesili, lawmaker, trade words at Senate panel sitting. The hearing, of course, did not successfully hold. Access denied. Senator Natasha's recall plot hits roadblock. INEC says they didn't put enough information to be able to allow them verify. NLC demands wage implementation in Rivers State. And the House of Reps passes 39 bills for second reading. What are these bills and what are the implications for Nigeria? We'll review the newspaper front pages and open the phone lines for you to join us for all these and more.
State chairperson of the Trade Union Congress, Ikechukwu Onyefuru, and chairperson of the Joint Negotiation Council, Chukwu Emecheta. The labor unions questioned the legality of the federal government's decision and raised concerns over its economic and political implications. They described the suspension of the elected governor, deputy governor, and the members of the State House of Assembly as hasty and baseless, insisting the due process must be followed. Let's also tell you that the Senate has confirmed Onwakuche Sylvester Ndidi as the Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service. Nwachuke's confirmation follows the consideration of a report by the Senate Committee on Interior, which recommended this confirmation. The report presented by the committee's chairman, Adams Oshomole, confirmed the nominee's qualification and suitability for the role, clearing all doubts. Following the submission of the report, the Senate adopted its recommendations after it was put to a voice vote. Nwachuke, who was appointed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in December 2024, has been serving in an acting capacity before its confirmation. Its confirmation comes amidst heightened concerns over security following a jailbreak in Kogi State, where 12 inmates escaped from the correctional facility on Monday. That's all on Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aborowa. Breakfast Central continues in a short moment.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has rejected a petition to recall Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan due to incomplete requirements. But the petition, which was accompanied by 6 bags of documents containing signatures from voters in Kogi Central Senatorial District, lacked essential contact information. According to INEC's National Commissioner, Sam Olumekun, the petitioners failed to provide their contact address, telephone numbers, and email addresses as required by Clause 1F of the Regulations and Commissions, or Regulations and Guidelines. The address provided was Okene, Kogi State, and this was deemed insufficient for contacting the petitioners.
The petition to recall Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan came after her suspension by the Senate for violating its rules amidst allegations of sexual harassment against Senate President Akpabio. Here's why Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan has been recalled by her constituents.
Now we're joined this morning to discuss this development by legal practitioner and public affairs analyst Jide Ologun. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us, sir.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
A lot of responsibility has now been placed on INEC. It just feels like over the past few weeks we've seen Nigerians hold several institutions to high standards, and some of these institutions have been deemed to have failed. Would you say that INEC has acted in the best possible interests of upholding fairness and justice in this case?
Absolutely, and this is the concept of due process and due diligence, because INEC must ensure transparency in the process, because recalling a senator is provided for in Section 69 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended in few words, but then INEC has regulations that must be complied with, and it's a great thing that INEC has said, though we have received your petition, you need to further meet some conditions that will make the process credible. And you recall that recently when the idea of having additional 30 states in Nigeria came to the National Assembly, it was also said that those things were not presented proper way, and they were withdrawn. So we are waiting to see what the next step will be, whether to provide the vital information needed by INEC, where I can let us know that there are 3 major steps when it comes to recalling a senator that may not make it easy. You talk about the presentation of the petition, which has been done now. Then you talk about the verification, because over 1/2 of the registered voters in the constituency you must endorse the petitions, and then you need to verify all this. Then you now call for a referendum, and all this must be done within 90 days. And that is why there's no senator that has been recalled on record in Nigeria. So sometimes these things just spring up as part of the political weapons to either intimidate a senator or a target personality.
Now, talking about the political weapons, let's look at the political interference. Given the political climate surrounding this recall attempt, I mean, the person that put forward this recall attempt that is currently a government appointee in the Kogi State government, how can INEC ensure that the process remains free and fair from political influence, or is not a possibility? Because we've seen videos of allegedly of people, you know, just signing several documents claiming to be this constituent. And look at the record time they took to get over 250,000 signatures.
There are several stories around that. You know, some claimed that those people were invited for empowerment program. You know, there are different stories. And that is why INEC has a vital role to play as an umpire here. INEC has records of registered voters and their signatures, and that is the essence of verification, you see. And it is not the duty of the petitioners to verify. It is the duty of INEC. And the buck lies on the table of INEC to say, okay, we have checked, and these are not the signatures of the registered voters that are expected to present this petition. And that's why I mentioned the 3 stages. We should only be bothered if INEC does not carry out a thorough verification. And without the verification, the process cannot even advance to the referendum stage, where the senator now can be recalled by INEC with the issuance of a recall certificate as against the certificate of office handed over to her initially. So, by and large, all eyes are on INEC now, and INEC has started well by saying you must comply with some basic requirements.
So does it mean that the application that is deemed incomplete now can still be corrected, and that means that Natasha, is not yet out of the woods yet? Absolutely.
In fact, under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, when you talk about criminal allegations, the defendant is assumed innocent until these allegations are proved beyond all reasonable doubt. And we are not talking about politics. So they have come to say we have lost confidence in the senator representing us. They cannot remove her. It's the duty of INEC that brought her to office initially as an umpire to say, okay, let's see your petitions and let's ensure that those who should endorse, and I've said it, over 1/2 of the registered voters in the constituencies must endorse, and be sure that the endorsements are genuine. And if that process passes through, then you move to the 3rd stage of say, okay, let's come together, set a venue, and let's vote over this.
Does it really matter that, because this is one of the areas or sore points that people have pointed out, does it matter that the number of people who have allegedly voted for her recall, they far outweigh the number of people who voted at the 2023 general elections? For example, they would say that she came to office with 54,074 votes, and now we're seeing over 200,000 people voting for her recall. Does that matter?
It matters. It matters at the macro level, and it's a systemic issue. So apparently, if there is a foul play, those behind the foul play must be brought to justice. Absolutely. That is fraud. That is misrepresentation. But is that what we experience in Nigeria? Because it seems it's more about political power. And that is how to sanitize the society. Because you cannot just bring frivolous petitions to engage the time of parastatals and agencies.
But they excuse it as politics, that these things happen in politics. It's a game.
It's a game, but should this kind of game be the hallmark of the Nigerian democracy? My answer is no.
Can't they maybe say that, yes, these voters are registered voters that chose not to exercise their right to vote at the last elections, but have now decided to exercise that right to recall?
It is still subject to the verification. And I'm challenging the system to verify those signatures. I mean, even if you have 75 million naira in the bank, and you go there to transfer, they do your a thumbprint to be sure that you are the account holder. And until we come to the point of credibility in this country, we go nowhere. So if some people have gathered because they were paid by some politicians to now sign on behalf of others, they should be made to face the music of justice. That's my position. And that is when INEC will become more credible on platforms of promoting transparency. And what Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says is that the state shall abolish corrupt practice and abuse of office. So a corrupt practice is not restricted to embezzling money in office and collecting bribe and money laundering and all those. Again, all these false representations, though I'm just speaking on the assumption that some of those signatures would have been signed by parties who just came out to be mischievous. And that is why we must verify.
Now let's assume if this recall process does advance, does Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan have any legal recourse to challenge the recall, or the judiciary can be evoked at this point?
Absolutely. Judiciary is always ready. We have 3 arms of government, and the judiciary is to interpret the law. Even in the case of impeachment, when a governor is impeached, the governor cannot go to court in respect of that impeachment, but can go to court in respect of the procedures. And you saw what happened in Edo State. The deputy governor was thrown out by the governor, and then he went to court and won. So the judiciary is always waiting. But you see, my concern is that must we waste the precious governance time on issues like this rather than focusing on bringing a good lease of life to citizens?
So whose responsibility is it if we find out that some of the signatures were gathered in a dubious way, which is, like you said, criminal misrepresentation, to make an example out of these people, that you don't waste the time of government institutions and all of that to act as a precedent to others who might want to use this backdoor of recalling some representatives they do not like in the name of playing politics, in the name of claiming that the game is the game.
INEC will petition the Nigerian police or any of the relevant law enforcement agencies to further investigate and invite the conveners of this fictitious endorsement to come and explain. And in the criminal justice ecosystem, you have 3 important pillars: thorough investigation, diligent prosecution before a committed judiciary. You see, but like I said, it's likely to be that the relevant agencies will just overlook this, and we should know.
Will and resources to
exactly. And maybe in another 2 weeks we are discussing a different topic entirely from Natasha.
Well, I don't even know if that's possible, because we've seen the trajectory of how this move started. It first started with under 40
not being allowed to sit.
Yes, and then after that, it then snowballed into sexual allegations.
Recalling the sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment allegations, exactly. Now that we have the sexual harassment case, which he has said is the bedrock for all of this, I want you to quickly touch on that, your thoughts on the case she's had against the Senate President for sexual harassment, abuse of office, and obstruction of legislative duties. She's been suspended for 6 months. And these are some of the allegations she's leveled against the Senate President.
The Honorable Justice handling the matter has recused himself because, according to him, Akpabio alleged that he's biased. So the matter will be referred back to the Chief Judge to be reassigned to another judge. But as we speak now, the suspension rolled out by the Senate stands until it is dislodged by the judiciary or resolved politically by coming together. And those are some of the opportunities she had, because by extension now, more stakeholders are offended by the fact that she has gone to the international community to portray Nigeria in a particular picture. And that is why we say sometimes that in managing conflict, you need to engage a lot of wisdom and what we call emotional intelligence in human resource management.
By engaging in wisdom and emotional intelligence, are you talking on the part of how Senator Natasha has handled it, or how Senator Godswill Akpabio has handled it?
Natasha, absolutely.
Why do you say that?
I've mentioned it. She rushed to the United Nations, and you see, because some of these issues, though they may have personal elements, they also have national implication, you know, because all these things being rolled out will affect attracting foreign direct investments, the image of Nigeria, the reputation.
But what about her rights? What about
that if the Senate has acted right, if the Senate President has recused himself from being judge and jury in the same matter, it won't have gotten to this level. There will be no need, if she had a fair hearing, to go abroad.
Those are perceptions. As a chief superintendent of police and a private investigator, we have our own approaches. There are allegations. Now, don't let us overlook the fact that the Senate is saying she's not suspended on the basis of the allegation of sexual harassment, but for flouting the rules of the House. You see, so these are issues. And on the issue of sexual harassment, she's in court. And, you know, so, and I don't want to comment too much on that. I'm just talking generally now, because the House of Senate will come out to tell you, which is a reality, that her seat was not the first seat, that was substituted or changed, the location was changed. You see, so there are several issues in this matter. And again, on the case of sexual harassment, I am against sexual harassment. I lecture on this in human resource management and things like that. But then you also need to prove the sexual harassment. So I don't like the scale of allegations driving the process. For instance, now, and we have experienced this many times in Nigeria, that is the media trial that we drive the process. I am saying that there are mechanisms that, because the National Assembly also is claiming that she has not even come through the right channel for them to listen to her and think. So when you have these counter claims, then you best leave it to the judiciary. And
well, the conversations are unending as to what exactly amounts to sexual harassment. And I think even within the legal space is one of the most difficult areas to prove. So many have said that, you know, her allegations have been swept under the carpet or watered down. She's made such strong allegations, some of the statements that have been made by the Senate President, you know, that have been sort of sexual in nature, according to what she has said. So
you see, on sexual harassment, yes, even telling a lady you are hot constitutes sexual harassment.
But, yes,
but you must prove it. That is the issue with the judiciary. If you look at Section 131 of the Evidence Act 2011, it states this clearly. You present some facts before the court, the burden of proof is on you. You see, we've had successful cases in sexual harassment, and we have had sexual harassment allegations that were false. I mean, so those are issues.
Jide Ologun, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show.
Thank you too.
This is an unending conversation. Yesterday we had the Senate Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions Committee having a meeting, and they began a probe into the sexual harassment allegations leveled against the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, by suspended lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The outcome of that was very, very unpleasant. Let's take a look.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Yesterday, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions began a probe into the sexual harassment allegations leveled against the President of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Akpabio, by suspended lawmaker Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The probe follows a petition submitted by one of her constituents accusing the Senate President of gross misconduct, abuse of office and sexual harassment. However, tensions flared during the probe following an exchange between Senator Nwebonyi and the former Minister of Education, Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, of whom appeared before the committee as a witness.
This morning to share what exactly happened. On our side of the story, we're joined by the former Minister of Solid Minerals, former Minister of Education, beg your pardon. We also have she's the co-founder of Transparency International, the co-founder of Bring Back Our Girls, and also she is a founder of Fix Politics, as well as School of Politics, Policy and Governance. We're joined this morning by Dr. Oby Ezekwesili. Good morning, Ma. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
I think a great way to start the conversation would be what exactly happened yesterday and why the allegations we're hearing would be that you may have incited him to react the way in which he reacted by telling him to shut up. I want you to please run us through what exactly happened yesterday.
Well, because we're all, I believe that we're reasonable people, you wouldn't say shut up or please shut up to anyone without a context. And that context was essentially that he apparently came to the session as a witness for the Senate President. So he wasn't in his capacity as a senator member of the committee. He was simply there as he introduced a witness for the Senate President, the respondent to the petition by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Now, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan could not be at that session because, as you know, she was illegally and unconstitutionally suspended from the Senate. And also the person who represented her as the one who signed her petition, according to the procedural rules of the Senate, was the one we accompanied. I accompanied him along with Dr. Abiola Akiode Afolabi, who was also in the place of a counsel to him. And so the beginning of the conversation was actually very inappropriate in the sense that the chair of the Senate, as well as the members of the Senate, basically said we were unserious just because the petitioner, Mr. Suberu Zaraluma, had indicated that he wanted to raise objections before taking an oath, and they said he couldn't say anything to them without taking an oath. So he said that the objections I want to raise are material for what I am required to say about the petition. At that point, we had a situation that was very reminiscent of a determination to shut down people on the basis of Senate rules. So the lawyer then said to him, you go ahead and take the oath, and then use that opportunity to do the objection. And following from that, I said I also wanted to take the oath as a witness, because I was there in my capacity as a person globally who is the chair of the Women Political Leaders, a flagship organization based out of Brussels that brings together all women political leaders around the world, female presidents, female prime ministers, female parliamentarians, and ministers in governments around the world. I only 2 years ago took over from former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Mrs. Helen Clark. And so I was a witness, also recognized by the committee yesterday. Except that every attempt to say this petitioner needed to be granted his right to make the objection that he had, which were two. He said, number one, I do not have confidence in this committee because it has publicly taken positions that are not complementary to my senator. Therefore, I will not expect that any presentation I make to them will be giving objective response. And the gentleman further said that for him, he needed that a special committee be instituted so that he would have the confidence to present the petition. And number two, that his senator, who is the principal witness, is not with him just because she is under suspension and was told that she couldn't come anywhere near the National Assembly. So he wanted them to lift that suspension so that she would be with him and accompany the statements that he would be making. It was really impossible to get through with those very reasonable requests by the plaintiff, by the petitioner. And so that was the context within which we not being allowed to support him, and yet a senator, not a member of that committee, who came and said he was representing the Senate President, the person accused by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, had himself jumping into the time that we were asking to be allowed to speak and saying, if they are not serious to do their presentation, then I am ready. I'm here to speak. And he was allowed to speak without taking the oath that they made an issue for us. So it was unequal treatment of the voices of citizens who were at that session yesterday. And then he carried on. I mean, how could you describe us as unserious and that you were there to do your presentation for the Senate President? It was a continuation of this pattern of behavior. I think it was a continuation of this pattern of behavior of shutting down the voices of those that you think do not have a right to express. So when he did that, I said to him, can you please shut up? We're speaking. We have a right to express. And that was the beginning of his torrent of insults. That's what happened, actually.
I think that anything may have been done differently, given the benefit of hindsight.
I actually do not see what could have been done differently from our side. This was a side in the room that was, basically experiencing a toxic response by the committee. And this senator that released the torrent of insults was basically empowered because they did not stop him. You could hear when I did say that I take exception to this senator being allowed to speak and to release these insults while the chair was in the seat. So I basically want you to know that to the extent that we would not stand up to those moments when voice is being stifled, to that extent are we determined to hand over our democratic culture, our democratic privileges and our rights to people who have a pattern of abusing their power.
Now, Dr. Ezekwesili, you've worked in Nigeria at the highest levels. You've been a two-time minister. You've had international engagements. You're widely traveled and known across the world. Looking home, looking at our culture in Nigeria, do you think there's a culture of silencing women in Nigerian politics? And how do you think this can be addressed if this is so?
Well, at least number one, making sure that it becomes a public topical issue is critical, because normally the silencing of the voices of women happens behind closed doors. They happen in situations where there are no witnesses to them. But what studies have shown across the world is that 1 out of every 3 women suffer one form of gender-based violence, including sexual ones, at one time or the other. That's a significant data to work with. And in Nigeria, we have never had a situation where a woman of the status of Senator Uduaghan actually took the stand that she wasn't going to back down and that she was going to make public the kind of harassment that she has faced in the hands of the Senate President of our country. That on its own is something that must be supported, because when people know that when they speak up, the society will be willing to support them in demanding for what is appropriate. What is appropriate? What is appropriate is that Senator Uduaghan should be given fair hearing by a committee that is not tainted in the way that we have seen with the Ethics and Privileges Committee, where different members at different times have taken public positions on her allegation without any independent investigation or public hearing that enables the two parties to the matter to actually put their cases forward.
So would you say that, this fair hearing, what picture would you say it looks like? Would it involve her still, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions? Would you say that you've lost faith in this committee, or would you want a completely independent body to look into this matter?
It has to be a new committee that persuades the petitioner that she would be presenting to people who will be objective in listening to her petition. It has to be that. And it has to be accompanied by independent investigation. One of the things that we know is that the ICPC has sexual harassment as one of crimes stated as corruption under that act. So if you have an independent investigator accompanying the public hearing, which my emphasis is on public, it needs to be broadcast so that people follow on the basis of transparency. The issue at stake is accountability of public institutions and public officials when necessary. We are losing it because what the Senate has successfully done, even yesterday, is to say that they are not going to offer that opportunity to Senator Uduaghan. Do you know that what they did yesterday was at the end saying, oh, by the way, there are 2 cases in court that would make it sub judice for us to listen to the petitioner. So why did you go through the whole charade of inviting him, of recognizing those of us that came with him as witnesses for the petitioner, and then go through that whole rules of the Senate, rules of the Senate, rules of the Senate, and which at some point made me say to them, you appear to suggest that the rules of the conduct of the business of the Senate have attained a stature superior to the Constitution and the laws of our land. I do not think that that is our constitutional democracy. So clearly, the Senate has refused to do what the society expects it to do. It has now decided to make Senator Natasha a defendant to a case that was instituted by the wife of the President of the Senate, whom she did not at all mention in her petition. So that's what they have done. They said, okay, there's these 2 cases, we're going to respect it. The same people who did not respect the judgment that the High Court, the Federal High Court, gave to Senator Natasha when she asked that they be restrained because she was not clear that she was going to get fair hearing from them. They ignored it and went ahead and suspended her. But suddenly, the court mattered to them yesterday because they are determined to dodge this allegation. They do not want this allegation to be treated in the way that is necessary in order to ensure that justice is accorded at any of the 2 parties involved.
Now, Dr. Ezekwesili, what do you say to disillusioned Nigerians, especially women who are looking at everything playing out now, the suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the sexual harassment charges, the incident that happened at the Senate Ethics Committee meeting yesterday where you were shouted down on. They feel disillusioned in politics in Nigeria. What will it take to correct this? What's your message to young women?
I think the message would be to young women and to men and to the society at large. So to the young women, nothing must ever shut down your voice. No one. It doesn't matter what power they have. I need them to understand that I have been in the public space for more than 30 years of my life, especially at the time when I became a co-founder of Transparency International. In all the 3 decades, at different stages, because of my voice, I have had to face a pattern of bullying of one kind or the other. I refuse to shrivel in the face of it. You cannot allow your voice to be taken from you. God gave you that voice. The more that we can have women understand the power of their voice, the better it is for our society, because development research shows that representation matters. Nations that have understood this are when they do the ranking of innovative societies, that is, societies that have the most innovation, it has been part of the reason that they became productive societies, that became prosperous societies. So this is critical. We cannot say to our women that they cannot express their voice. We also cannot use this stifling of the voice of women, the mischaracterization of women when they choose to make their voice count, a decoy, that it's actually it's a tool for ensuring that women are silenced permanently and cannot attain or access political power. We've seen it in women political leaders. It doesn't happen here alone. But what the difference is, and that's where I'm talking to the larger society, is that societies have come out collectively to say, no, you cannot do this. And when there has been that collective momentum to say these kinds of systems and structures and cultures or norms that impede and basically stifle women will not be tolerated. The entire society of Nigeria has the opportunity now to define a different approach for the engagement of women and our girls.
What about the women?
Public discourse and leadership.
You speak to women and talk about the voice and the power that women wield and the influence, and oftentimes how people will try to stifle it. But what about the women who have been criticized for not speaking up in support of other women? The female senators in that house who were criticized for not standing up for Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. I would like you to speak about them, as well as Honorable Charity Jesse, who is a special assistant or special advisor to the Kogi State Governor on Youth and Women Mobilization, that had championed the cause for her recall. So please speak to these two scenarios, as well as the role that women have in being able to champion the voices of other women.
Okay, I would hope that your colleague would speak in the way that you speak, because I hear you more clearly than I hear him. So you've asked a very important question. What we have found is that because of the long period, the historical nature of this idea that women must be silenced, even some women become inheritors of that legacy, of the culture of silencing women. So they are really victims in some way, because they do not see the right and the power that they have to not be enablers of this culture, of this system. And therefore, when they do it to their fellow women, they do it as part of that entrenched system that exists. So it does take a lot of enlightenment of why that should not be so. I have seen instances in other societies where women have done things like this because they did not understand that it was not about the single individual that was going through that situation in that moment. Some just look at Senator Uduaghan and judge her in all kinds of ways, and then take a position on her against looking at the facts of what she's presenting. Now, that is confirmation bias. These are things that behavior modification alone can change. And so we must invest in that, and in a sustained manner, educating not just the men, but also the women, starting early to educate the boys and the girls. All of these are important for moving forward on this important matter.
But would you like to
Second
speak? Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Whilst you're saying that, I wanted you to speak in particular, ma'am, to these senators as well. Yes, please.
Yes. So, on the matter of the recall and the woman that submitted the recall, I think that already, by virtue of her position, she ought not to be the one submitting any recall, whether appropriate or fraudulently acquired. I think that what is critical for us is to see how they have exposed themselves, that rather than focus on the request of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who has such incredible legitimacy with her constituency, rather than focus on her legitimate demand for fair hearing. They have instead tried to silence her, tried to, just completely sideline her. And that is why the recall is being purchased from what we can see. But you know what? Our eyes are on INEC, because the threshold for establishing the veracity of a demand for the recall of a senator, we will ensure that all of that is satisfied, because the genuine constituents of Senator Uduaghan are in fact standing with her all the way. And Nigerians must condemn this kind of politically charged and fraudulently acquired process of recall for a senator who just needs justice.
Just to quickly put a nail to this part of the conversation, I'd like you to speak to the female senators. At the time, they hadn't in any way shown their support. Would you have any particular message you would like to send to the likes of Senator Ireti Kingigbe and all the other female senators in the House?
Former senators, too. Female.
Well, it is not about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. It is about the systemic, institutionalized, and structural processes that inhibit women. And so for those who think that it is about a single individual, they will know in their heart of hearts that they have faced one form of gender-based violence or the other. And so for the other three senators, as well as the former senator, who instead of facing the facts of the matter, being that Senator Uduaghan was making an allegation and therefore joining her to demand fair hearing, I would say that is a monumentally missed opportunity to make this an issue that changes the systems that erect barriers against women emerging in politics and in public spaces, even in private sector as leaders. We need more women leaders, not less. Nigeria is at the bottom of women representation in politics at about 3.7%. It is not, therefore, a coincidence that we also are at the bottom of all governance indicators that are done, comparing nations. It is therefore not a surprise that we're at the bottom in terms of human development indicators. It is not therefore a surprise that we are at the bottom in terms of economic growth, economic development, and of course, economic opportunities for all of our society. They all matter.
Now, madam, there's a section of society that has been screaming she doesn't have evidence, she should show evidence of sexual harassment, she needs to show proof, and she's just being emotional about the whole situation. How do you address this issue of showing evidence for sexual harassment? Does she owe it to the public, or does she owe it to the Senate Ethics Committee or law courts to prove these allegations?
I mean, I think it's the issue of critical thinking, right? Critical thinking and logical mapping would tell all of us that a person who makes an allegation within a democratic context must be allowed the space in which she provides her evidence. Senator Natasha Uduaghan doesn't live in a lawless society. In a democratic society, within the rules of the Senate, she needs to get her fair hearing at a properly constituted committee that has the confidence that she desires, because not because she wants it, therefore create it. It is because all of us who are reasonable people in society, we have indeed seen the bias that is already there. The fact that a position has already been taken by the existing committee that she could have gone before and laid her complaint and backed with evidence. So she's not been given that. She's not supposed to go to the internet and say, these are my evidences. No, it doesn't work like that. So it's really a matter of critical thinking and logical frame.
From what you said, madam, it seems you've lost faith in the fairness of this committee as currently constituted. If so, what's the way forward? And why did you say you don't trust that she'll get fair treatment from this ethics committee as currently constituted?
You have to repeat, please.
Why do you say that she might not get fair hearing from the Senate Ethics Committee as currently constituted, and what would be the best way forward for you?
I already said that her own premise is that she was already judged by some of the members of that committee and the senators at large in the way that her complaint, her petition has been treated, and that she therefore does not think that the committee as constituted will give her the threshold of confidence that she would get fair hearing. That is a legitimate concern, because all of us in society saw that happen. We saw, to the extent that even the chair of the committee had stated that her petition was dead on arrival, even though they say that they only said that in relation to the fact that she did not follow the rules. But to say that sexual harassment has not been alleged against the Senate President before, that is not logical. There's always a time when somebody finally says, I am going to take a public stance on an issue. So that really does reduce significantly the credibility of the Senate Ethics and Privileges Committee to be a judge on this matter. So any reasonable person would support the position of Senator Uduaghan. On the matter of the way forward, I think that rather than dodge this matter, a public institution, the highest lawmaking organ in our democracy, must get the feedback from the citizens. They want accountability. They want accountability. And therefore, we expect the Senate to, in a closed session amongst themselves, realize that this issue has terribly, terribly reduced the integrity of that public institution and those that sit in it. They need to know that if they continue to use the rules of the Senate as a tool for dodging accountability to our society on a matter of fair hearing and on a matter of granting opportunity to seek redress and justice by one who alleges injury, what they are saying to us is that they are the ruining block of our democracy. How can those who should uphold the sanctity of democratic principles, norms, ethos, and constitutional provisions be the ones ruining things? How can the lawmakers become the major lawbreakers?
Thank you very much. I believe this is where we draw curtains in this interview. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, former Minister of Education and Solid Minerals in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thanks for your time and your insights on this subject.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us on the conversation, and well done on leading a group of disruptors that will birth a new political era. We look forward to seeing change in what we currently call our democracy and how it's being handled. We'll go on a very quick break now, and when we come back, we have more conversations. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. It's time to find out what big stories are making headlines today. Joining us this morning is Public Affairs Analyst Sheson Okwade. Sheson, good to see you. It's been a moment.
Yeah, good morning.
A minute.
Yeah, good morning,
Yes.
Olive.
Good morning.
Good morning to all our viewers at home. Glad to be back.
And since the last time we saw you, so many things have happened in the country. Some inmates in Koton Karfe in Kogi State decided to go for early
Picnic.
Ramadan Salah picnic.
So much has happened, really.
A lot has happened. The event unfolds like per hour in the country.
Right.
If you are not abreast of information, what you heard last hour may not be relevant in the next hour.
You came into the conversation, or you came in whilst we were having a conversation with Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, and I'm sure that will be your first question to get your thoughts on how that situation erupted. It was just like from 0 to 1,000 in a moment. And that's the first big story on the Punch newspaper. It says, sexual harassment hearing, Senators Ezekwesili clash. INEC faults Natasha's recall process. Ex-Minister slams Senate over bias in sexual harassment case, hearing adjourned indefinitely. CBN plans fresh battle against forex speculators as Naira slides. Discos raking 509 billion naira amidst serial grid collapses. Zimbabwe dim Eagles World Cup hope after Uyo stalemate. Tinubu lights NSF torch, reaffirms commitment to sports. Unfortunately, that torch that has been lit, Zimbabwe really helped us to blow a lot of oxygen. They did not renew the hope for us in that regard. Dollar for petrol, marketers protest, Dangote exports fuel to US, others. First Bank files appeal, injunction and stay of execution. Cargo remains under arrest. But let's start with your thoughts on the altercation between Senator Nwebonyi and Dr. Oby Ezekwesili.
Yeah, I watched that yesterday, and I think I saw the senator on the sister's station appealing at his altercation to Oby. I have this to say that those that are holding place of position, senators, rep, part of the things we should be seen to have is this emotional intelligence and how we react to certain issues. First and foremost, you should know that the people coming, Oby and the team, are coming in to put a defense against what they considered as one of their own that has actually been shortchanged and been harassed. And you should expect high voice. You understand what I'm trying to say? And as a man, it's just like you coming home and you can have a feel of what your woman is already planning. And the next thing for you is to start shouting. I expect least from him. But I saw him coming to apologize yesterday to Oby and to other women that was actually based on the provocative statement by Oby. And I asked myself the question, as a man, what provocative act can a woman bring to you? What implies is that if not that you are in a public space, you must have gone physically attacking the woman. If you can't control your emotion in that particular space. But be it as it may, he has apologized. But I feel that you can't shut her down. You can't shut Oby down, more so when he knows. We know the part she played during the Bring Back Our Girls, which she was at a time, a lone voice in the wilderness for everyone to hear. And she will not relent until she gets what she wants, and that is having more women, being given the right and the privilege, not just oppressing and harassing them because we feel we are men.
Very, very sad. I mean, I don't even know how to feel about that story, to be honest.
Now, let's go to the Guardian newspapers. The front page of the Guardian newspaper says mixed reactions to proposal to hold general elections in one day. Minister unveils 5 million jobs initiatives for youths. Federal government begins, all these job initiatives, it's always on paper. We never see these jobs. They are unveiling it.
But they said unveiling, proposing. Okay. They are not implementing.
Yeah, that's the most important part. Federal government begins crackdown on irregular migrants, August 1st. Nigeria first. Yes, that's, I guess we're taking that step.
Donald Trump.
Nigeria for Nigerians, no illegal aliens taking already scarce jobs.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Atiku rallies support for new political movement to unseat President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Natasha, petitioners yet to meet requirements for recall, says INEC. Organized labor threatens nationwide strike over Rivers political crisis. Okay. The labor movement always has a way of trying to have a say in everything that happens. People have moved on. Sole administrator has resumed office. Organized labor is planning to go on strike. Even Mr. Fubara is enjoying his quiet time. Appeal court stays action on Bayero Sanusi Tosso. Return parties to Supreme Court. We have factional party chairman, factional speaker. Now there's factional emir. What's really going on? But I guess the Supreme Court will finally have a say and decide on this. And the people of Kano are saying, look, there are going to be 2 Durbar ceremonies to mark the end of Ramadan. So they get 2 for 1. You can attend the Durbar of which emir you
or you even attend it too.
Exactly.
All right. We have a call coming in from Dennis, calling from Benin City. Good morning, Dennis. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. Am I with you?
Yes, you're with us. Please go ahead.
All right. Concerning the issue at stake, the issue concerning Natasha harassment, let me put it this way. Akpabio versus Natasha. You see, madam, what happened between that senator and it's a pity I don't know his name. I don't care to know his name. The way she was even harassing the former minister for education. I think that went a long way to tell me how we have a lot of them in the Senate. With all due respect, they are not there. They are not matured. They behave like pigs. That went a long way to tell me. My heart is bleeding. My heart is bleeding. I don't have much to say, but I want to say that their attitude is absolutely preposterous. After 60-something years, Nigeria got our independence. And you see this lackadaisical attitude from our senators? What a shame. Madam, my heart bleeds for this country, Nigeria. I'm happy that God is already exposing them. That's the fact. God is already exposing them.
Dennis, thank you for sharing your thoughts, Dennis.
So I'd like you to react to this headline from The Guardian. Mixed reactions, trade proposal to hold general elections in one day. Is it possible?
Very, very much possible if we have the political. In fact, part of the things I've actually been advocating for is, can we have this election without locking everybody in their house the whole day? Knowing fully well that we mingled with people, the informal sector, a lot of people, if they don't come out today, there is no how they make ends meet. And you lock everybody in and say we should not go out from morning till night. After all, you come and again say there's a by-election, there are this and that. I'm in support of this one day. But an extension of it is, at this point, when we had this particular stuff, technology was not an in-road thing. How can we try to start infusing technology? We have AI, we have blockchain technology, things that people are using to change the dynamics of things and operation. A lot of people will come and say, no, when you go to the rural area, the rural area, people can have access to it. But do you know, you can make use of, we can adopt USSD in making our election very much possible. Is it not to click one click, just to click this? Even our village people, a lot of people now make use of these so-called phones that are not Android to carry out transactions.
Yes.
So I feel, because I look at the economic losses that we incur when we lock down for a whole day. Now we do that for 2 times, and you come out at the outcome and say you are cancelling the election or there are a lot of irregularities. Let's look for a way to advance it. I'm supporting a day, because what will definitely come out of this is that you are going to increase the number of ballot box papers that you are going to share.
Whether this would lead to free and fair elections is another conversation. But let's hear from Paul calling from Ebonyi State. Good morning, Paul. I'm imagining that you want to speak on your representative, Honorable Nwebonyi. Please turn down the volume of your TV set.
Good morning, Paul. Please turn down the volume of your TV. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Sir.
Good morning. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. You see, what transpired yesterday between the Senate committee and Dr. Oby Ezekwesili and her colleagues was really an eyesore to the country's democracy. You see, and that is why we always advocate. If you give an Agboro a place he did not belong to, he must surely outdo himself in one way or the other. And on a very serious note, they are merely advertising the women vote into a very high limelight through the Senate President. I wonder how somebody, assuming they treated this matter in-house, it wouldn't have escalated. But they have exposed everything concerning them, trying to watch their destiny leaning outside. And it is just like what Christians do today. They praise the devil more than they praise God, giving the devil more praise than God, advertising men of God more than they advertise Jesus Christ. Today, they're trying to shun what Natasha was trying to bring up. Is escalating and exposing them more and bringing Nigeria into a very bad line. On a very serious note, they should either listen to the voices of the women, because women in the world today are interested in what Natasha is saying concerning the Senate President of Nigeria, a country that claims to be giant of Africa. Tinubu should call the Senate President to order or declare state of emergency in the Senate. It is not only in Rivers. That's it. This type of matters could escalate into chaos. On a very short note, the president of the country should not stand by what this country going into question, and we're not happy about it.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Of course, he has spoken against this. He's from Nwebonyi State. Honorable Nwebonyi is from Nwebonyi State as well, representing. His
name says it.
Exactly, Nwebonyi, son of Nwebonyi.
Son of the show.
People have said that he's
sincerely speaking, you won't see anyone support the attitude of Senator. And I think they need to watch it.
You'll be surprised.
Those that will support them are people that are power drunk, and you see, a lot of them needs to actually watch it. And it's not for me to say we will recommend emotional intelligence training for some of them. A lot of them are power drunk. You remember the member of the House of Rep that picked up with the Uber guy that was later resolved. There is this, and that starts even on the road. I'm looking for a way where we can even stop this attitude of some of these are senators, member of the House of Rep, blowing siren on the road. Why must you intimidate us on the road? That's what gets into them, that when they are seated, somebody is telling you, don't you know I'm the Senate, I'm a distinguished senator, when you have not distinguished yourself. It starts from the intimidation. Yeah, you don't force respect, you earn it. So, but they intimidate us on the road, they are on the road, they blow so much siren, with a taxpayers' money, and everybody had to leave. So when they come into a place, the first thing they want to see is to still pass. Because when somebody is saying, like I said, for me, if I'm on that seat yesterday, I know the position of Madam Oby. She's coming in with a very strong will to, like, we can't tolerate this, we can't welcome this. You don't give fire for fire. You just wait patiently. In fact, you use the persuasive means of getting them to see, have a buy-in into your own idea.
And it doesn't make you less of a man.
Of course. You should be able to have them, that buy-in, persuading them to, like, see reason from this angle, and if they don't, not you know, exchanging when
do you think that so far this, the quality of Senator Godswill Akpabio's leadership has impacted the reputation of the Senate?
Well, by my own rating, they've not, because we keep hearing issues that should have been managed.
Maybe what I should rephrase that question to ask, what are your thoughts about the quality of Senator Godswill Akpabio's leadership?
Yeah, well, I think we tend to make so much mockery of that particular seat, and I have this to say. Remember the other time, he never knew he was on air when he said, I hope you people have gotten, and later said, have you gotten prayer, sending prayer to your email. There are certain, I'm being made to understand that there are certain positions you occupied. You watch the kind of jokes you crack. because it can be misconstrued for other things. And the way you speak, that's the number 3
the sort of
citizen.
Things you do. He was the one that led the chorus for "On Your Mandate We Shall Stand," the president's campaign anthem in the Nigerian.
Just to see his loyalty to Mr. President.
Leader, I mean, in the hallowed chambers.
Maybe
So
that
belongs to all parties.
It's just to show the loyalty. You know, a lot of them still wants to give. You see, when you relate with some of these politicians, they want that relevance. After the first 4 years, you still want that relevance. So, and if you that Mr. President can take it.
Position for checks and balances. Let's hear from Tony. Good morning, Tony. Thanks for calling.
Good morning.
Please go ahead.
I want to speak on Oby Ezekwesili and Senator Nwebonyi's issue yesterday. When he was speaking in Channel Television, I think I followed him up to the end of the program. He didn't apologize to women. And there is one thing that I learned yesterday. Some of them have thrown their culture away. Oby Ezekwesili is a mother. Not really mother, is a grandmother. And in Igbo culture, he has right to say, shut up. If it is during when the culture is still working, shut up means you are my son. And he has to respect the woman. Even if you want to speak, you will respect her at that moment, and then within some minutes you continue with your talking. But the culture, those people, I don't know whether they still remember the culture. With what happened yesterday, that senator is embarrassment to Igbo people. No respect to that woman. The woman that even if you go to the international community, she has respect there. But because you feel I know your mother, I know your father, we know ourselves, you can talk anything because you are a senator. It's quite unfortunate. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Tony, for calling.
Tony's reaction makes me laugh. Do we still have culture play its place?
Where's the place of culture in our national discourse? How people behave in honesty, in being upright,
integrity, accuracy, and the likes. We lost that when we played down the issue of teachings like history and moral instruction. A lot of us grew up with that particular thing, moral instruction, when you know when to respect people and you know that you have to earn that respect.
Is it the family or the school? Whose responsibility is it?
Yeah, well, I would say from both parties. It starts from the family, because I'll tell individual. People will claim that you stay more time with the teachers in school, much more than the parent. But the children learn so much from their parent, much more than the teacher. So I say it starts from home. When you see parents who do not even have regard for elders, what do you expect the upcoming one to definitely do? A place of culture, I will always tell everyone that care to know that you can't take it off us as African. You must see an elderly person and you must greet with respect. In respect, I tell people that care to know, people that are as elderly as my father, I greet them the way I greet my father.
There's a flip side to that argument, but that conversation will not be today.
For
flip
today.
Side, yes, the flip side would be that sometimes we also use respect, and that is not in this particular instance. Yes, but we sometimes use respect to stifle the voices of younger people, or use it to get away with that.
Yeah, I understand
and I do not in any way mean in this situation, because he acted
I understand
very poorly.
No, I understand that your perspective.
Okay, right.
And most of the time, when the elder one use that to stiffen and shorten, you will see the resistance on the part of the younger one, and you will see a lot of people actually saying that elderly one at this time, I think you got it wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, for joining us.
Always a pleasure to start the midweek with you.